Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. This year for Christmas, my mom got me a Russian axe. Now, I was desperately after one of these. I looked and looked to try to find one. They're kind of unobtainable. I got this one off eBay. This was purchased surplus, new, basically. Came from Poland, I believe, and this was like the second to the last one the guy had. So this looked like it in the picture. I was after the famed coal cracker axe, and this isn't it. But in my mistake, this is what I got. This is what I purchased, and when I first got it, I was, ecstatic with it. It's uniquely different than any American axe you're going to see. That was my original impression with it. Steel is hard as a rock. It rings like a bell. I walked around the last couple days right after Christmas just ringing this thing over and over again. Then once the new wore off, I started to look at it. This is a hardware store quality axe, so it never was intended to be compared to a Gransford or a S.A. Wetterlings. So it didn't have an edge on it. That's understandable. They're a very unique axe. Like I said, this has a short handle on it, and the handle itself has a crack to it, which again, I didn't really notice when it was brand new. And if you look at it, the grain runs off this way, and that's exactly how the axe cracked. So this has such a big, unique eye to it. That's because, from my understanding, these Russian handles were made from a soft wood. They just didn't have, a good ash like we have in America. So they used whatever type of soft conifer type wood that they had. So everything was bigger, everything was beefier, just for that reason. So the fact that it was so dull, I tried to put an edge on it. It's very hard with the limited tools that I had. And then the handle itself, it kind of put me in a bad frame of mind with the thing, and I really haven't done a lot with it since then. So recently I was messaging Matthew Justice from Beaver Creek Woodcraft about Russian axes, and he suggested that if he could take a look at this, he could probably make a handle for me. So I'm going to give it off to him. We're going to get a new handle. He does custom axe work, so I'm sure when this thing comes back, it's going to have a better edge on it than what I could do. And I will actually put this to the test and see if it does what I originally intended to do. The actual axe I was after, the one that Dan Woyak uses, is significantly smaller than this. This is like half the size. Looking through my hatchet collection, this is awfully similar to a just straight up hewing hatchet. I have several of these hatchets. Some are right-handed or left-handed, and the angle varies depending on the bit itself. This one's fairly straight, and if you look at the heads, they are pretty darn close. This thing's a little bit heavier, but this isn't really as unique as I originally thought it was. This has been rehandled who knows how many times, who knows how old this was. This almost looks like a hammer handle that somebody put in here at one time. But I'm kind of interested if this Russian axe at least works on par with a classic American hewing hatchet, or does it do something more. So hopefully when we see this next, Matthew will work his magic on this thing, and we'll see what it can do. So I just got my Russian axe back from Beaver Creek Woodcraft. Matt made a new handle for it. It came out wonderful. Absolutely love the handle shape. I wanted it approximately the same size, same style. I didn't want to try to turn this into a Americanized Soviet axe. He did stretch it 2 inches. He said he thought it would work a little bit better. I said go ahead and use your judgment on it. It's got a nice little flail at the bottom here to keep your hand from slipping off that it did not have with the original handle. The original handle was garbage. It was just absolute junk. This looks nice, feels nice. I've had it a little bit, and I'm pretty comfortable at this point bringing it out, swinging it around, and showing you what I think about it. So when I'm in the woods, I like to craft stuff. Making fires is something I'm always doing. Splitting wood is something I'm always doing. But an axe this size doesn't necessarily lend itself very well to any of the craft things. I've got a giant log behind me. Just to do this heavy axe some justice, I'm going to chop into this tree. This is maybe a 28-inch tree, 28 inches across. It's a monster. This is not something I do for fun, but just to give the axe a whirl, I'm going to take some big chunks out of this big old log behind me. So we know that an axe that size is able to take care of the big stuff. This is something more like I'm used to using. This is like a 3.5, 4-inch piece of maple. This is something just out of the firewood pile. On a normal day like this is something I would split, make a 1-stick fire with, and I'm going to try to do that today using the big heavy axe. So as you can see, it did a pretty good job breaking a log down into more manageable sized sticks to make a fire. That's kind of like a critical thing for what I do. That axe can do it. That axe is really, really big to do it. I'm wore out from doing that. My hand's killing me, my arm's killing me. That is like double the size of what I need for that. But in a pinch, it does work for that. Now, an interesting note, I remember I showed in the basement before I sent this thing off how the head has a flat hewing shape, similar to a lot of the antique hewing hatchets that I have. Those usually have smaller handles on it, and you're really not doing a full swing with it. So I can hew fairly well with an antique hatchet. This thing here, I struggle with a little bit more, primarily because this big Russian axe has such a huge eye on it. The handles are larger. So I'm struggling to hold on to the thing. And then, you know, the weight is excessive with this. But I noticed I was using the point of this a lot more. So with a flat hatchet, or with a flat contour to this cutting edge, I would start the point into the piece of wood I was trying to split. Also, when I was sticking it in out of the log, to save myself the energy of burying this thing in, I was just taking the point and sticking it in. That wasn't planned. That's not really something I'd done before. That's just adapting to the tool and, you know, what works best with this style of axe. So this is good steel. It's got a good edge on it after it came back from Beaver Creek Woodcraft. It should not be any surprise that this thing is going to feather fairly well. I'm going to go ahead and knock some feathers out real quick, just to prove that it can be done, and then our one stick will be complete. So a lot of these curls were falling off because this is just such an ungodly big axe, but it's really a piece of cake. The weight of this, as well as the heft of it, all you gotta do is hold the right angle and run it down the stick, and the curls just come right off. You know, anything that fell off was my fault. But that's not surprising in the least that this thing will curl, make feathers and curls all day long. So to be completely honest, this style Russian axe is not my favorite, not at all. It's too big for mostly what I do. I do appreciate the fact that it performs similar to a full-size axe in a shorter package. So I can see any type of winter camping or something when I was primarily concerned with splitting wood, processing big quantities of wood. Something like this would work, and something like this is unique because of the short size compared to carrying a 32-inch felling axe. For what I do, not so much. Definitely great if I was building log cabins or you know, a raft or something where I was trying to notch and chop large pieces of wood. I actually like this a little bit better than a full-size axe, just for accuracy case and for carrying it. It's a lot more convenient to carry a smaller axe like this. I have zero use for an axe like this when I took it out of the box. Matt dressed it up, gave it a great edge, but the handle really really contributes to the use of the axe itself. A lot of thought went into this. Great for chopping. It does one sticks. Great for feathering.